Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. It has been gray, gloomy, and cold for the last almost a week, I think. But finally today we get a sunny day, so I'm really looking forward to being in the greenhouse on this sunny day. Today is also Friday, and that means it's Ficus Friday. I've been working on getting pad separation on my Sarissa tree for I think 3 or 4 years now. I follow the branch up from underneath the major branches, and then I try and isolate each branch, separating it from the front view and also from the top view, getting a separate pad of foliage there, and it really adds a mature look to the canopy. Instead of being one big kind of bushy canopy, it separates it into branches and really gives it a mature look. My Ficus microcarpa are starting to get a dense enough canopy now that I can begin this process, that I can start, separating those branches, trying to get layers and pads, which, will transform this tree from just kind of having a bushy haircut on top to looking more like a mature ficus tree. So that's what I'm going to begin today. I'm going to begin today by pruning up my Ficus microcarpa, the one I call fancy because it has all these fancy aerial roots and all these multi-trunks going up into the canopy. Before I begin the pruning today, I'm just going to check in on my reference photos, taking a look at some full-size ficus trees, checking out the canopy, the overall shape of it, and I hope you can kind of see the look I'm after, kind of separate clumps of branches that form that overall dome or umbrella-shaped canopy. Here's a close-up look at the base of this ficus. So you can see it has the root structure, and then it comes up to all these multi-branches or trunks, and they reach upwards into the canopy. So what I've got to do today is I've got to follow each one of these major branch or trunk lines up, and I've got to isolate the foliage and branches that are attached to that, and then prune it so I get a bit of separation, both from the front view and from the top view. All right, here I go. So I'm going to start with this little branch here. So it comes up, and you can see here's the pad, and above it I've got branches that shaded out. So I've got to kind of isolate each major trunk line, so viewed from the top, that each pad has a spot of light. So I don't want these upper branches overhanging these lower branches, or these lower branches get weak and they'll die out and your tree will just keep getting taller. So this pad, I'm going to look at it from the front view. It's getting a little high here. I want it fairly flat so I get distinct pads. So I'm going to prune off this upper growth right here. And I'm going to take back this one off. Like that. And then I'll prune this one back. That one's okay. This one I'll prune back to here. This one I've got a pruning stub from last time, and another one here I can remove. And then I've got a branch kind of more horizontal here. I'll keep that one. I'll prune the tip off this one. And that kind of gets this pad as defined as I can at this point. I mean, this is just the start, and the start of many years of doing this. And each year, you know, you kind of refine that pad, get it more compact, more branching within the pad. And eventually you get this beautiful kind of layered branch structure, which really gives the tree a mature look. I've got that branch refined as flat as I can get it in the front view. So now I'm looking in the top view and I can see this branch is overhanging it, so it has to be shortened. So I'll shorten it back. It's got to have its own light. Here's another branch that's overhanging it. So I've got to remove that or shorten it back. And I think I'll just shorten it. Again, you know, this is a process that'll take many years. Here's another branch I can shorten. I can take tip off. This one I can shorten to here. So now I've got this branch pad looking down. I can see it clearly. It's defined. From the front view, it's as flat and compact as I can get it. So that one is done. So I've just got to do that for all the other kind of branches, following those major branch lines up the trunk, figuring out, you know, what is attached to it, isolating it from the top view and the side views to kind of make them compact and separate. So that's what I'll work at. The hardest part about this process is that you will lose some ramification. You'll need to prune some branches off that are overhanging the other pads. You'll have to prune branches back or remove them to make the pads more compact. So you'll lose kind of ramification today, but in the future, because the pads have good sunlight on them, you'll gain it in the future. You'll get more backbiting and it'll improve the overall health and also the look of the tree. I've got the tree on the turntable. So I'm going to begin the pruning now. My squeaky turntable. So I followed that one branch up. So the next one I'm going to do is this one here. There's a big kind of branch. It's got a side shoot here and one that comes up quite high up in the tree here. So let me have a look at it. I'm going to start. I've got a branch here on this side shoot that everything kind of flows outwards nicely from here, and then I've got this one shoot kind of sticking straight up, so I'm going to get rid of that. Or should I just prune it? No, I got to get rid of it. It's not only is it straight up, but it's also slightly slanting towards the interior of the tree, so it's got to come right off like that. So I've got two branches coming off from this. I've got a lower one here. I'll just clean this pruning stub up. I've got a lower one and then I've got an upper kind of cloud. So I can separate those into two. I can build a kind of a foliage pad down here and then create one out of these branches up here. So it'll kind of have a double cloud. So I've got to make sure the one above doesn't shade out the one below. So I'll prune those back a little shorter to here. So it's not shading out that lower one. And this one I will also prune back to here. And this one to here. Taking quite a bit off. There's some pruning stubs I can clean up here from last time I pruned the tree. Like that. So that's got that branch compact and defined. The next part of that branch goes quite vertical here, and it's quite a complex branch, so it's going to take a bit of sorting out. And sometimes it's not a matter of just working on one branch at a time, because sometimes you have a lot of branches that are interacting with each other. You know, there might be a branch from another trunk that's shading out the pad that you want to develop, so you've got to kind of prune all the branches in that area kind of at once sometimes. So it's not, you know, a textbook case. Each branch is a little different. I've got a branch coming up here that has a similar vertical part on it, and it's not just vertical, it points in towards the interior of the tree. So that has to come off totally, like that. And I can clean up this old pruning stub here, like that. Cleaning up the branch tip, dividing from 1 to 2, like that. So that helps in this area. So I'm still working on that other branch, so I'm tracing it up. I've got a little branch growing in the interior here. You can see there's a little shoot coming off way down here. I've got to decide, well, do I want to develop that into a major upright trunk line, or do I just want to remove it? And I'd say the answer is I want to remove it, because right above is a more developed branch. So I'm going to take that one right off. Just cleaning out that interior of the tree. Okay, so I'm following my major branch line up. It's coming up, I can kind of see it now. Right here, it comes up. It's a very complex. There's a branch growing the inside of a curve here I can remove, a little one. Okay, so it's coming up, and then there's a branch coming forward here, which looks to be fine. The thicker part of it comes up here, and there's a few problem areas here. There's one going straight up, a new shoot. I'll take that off. It's just kind of cluttering up the design, and I'm not getting as much light to these other branches as I could. There's an old leaf here I can take off. There's a branch here I can cut back, make it more compact. Same with here, and also here. There's a vertical shoot I can remove. The other part of the branch, there's also another shoot I can take back here, making that more compact. Wow. There's another branch in here. I don't know if you can see that, but the branch divides from 1 to 2, and right off that second one there's another branch growing up, a new shoot, and it's just cluttering everything up, and it doesn't look good from the front view, so it's coming off. There it is. There it is there. So I'm still following that same trunk line up, just trying to refine it, get it looking good. So you also have to remember that these major trunk lines, the outer ones will come up more horizontal, but the middle ones will come more vertical. So you get that fan shape of the upper canopy. The middle is vertical, and then as it gets towards the outside, they become more horizontal, and that gives you that kind of broom style major branch structure on the tree. So there's a branch here. I'll show you a close-up of this. I have to make a decision on it. Here's that branch here. It comes up fairly straight, and then there's 2 branches. It divides here, and it's not very flowing because this one kind of comes up and crosses this other one. So from the front view, they crisscross, and this one doesn't really flow, and it kind of grows over top of the pad I'm trying to create. And so I don't need this branch here at all, so I'm going to remove it totally. And that will also improve the flow line of the trunk here. So that comes right off. And I'll just clean that cut up like that. That'll heal over really nicely. So now from the front view, that branch has a nice flow line. All right, so I'm slowly solving problems on this tree. This trunk line comes up, and then I have it kind of goes vertical for quite a while, and I have a more horizontal shoot here, so I'm going to prune it off right here, like that. So my goal with this other trunk line is to kind of create a mid pad about here, not one in the apex. So that's why I'm kind of removing some of this upper growth on it. So I'll shorten it here, like that. Up here I've got a shoot sticking up. I can reduce that or take it right off, like that. There's an old leaf I can take off. The other part of this, I can take the tip off. That's about it. That's about all I can do there. Take an old leaf off. So that's kind of followed this other trunk line up. There is some other parts to it back here that I've got to sort out. There's one here. Again, it's getting very tall. I want to keep it as a mid foliage pad, so I'll take the top off. A big cut here. I wonder, maybe I'll take it off here, like that. That way I've got a bit of branching in this area, a bit more division there. So that kind of creates that mid pad. This one could be reduced a little further. So the other part of that comes up here, and I can take off this inner part, simplifying that branch a bit, dividing from 1 to 2. Now there's a branch that goes out the back here, which kind of crosses everything. I'm just going to take that right out. It's just not in a good place. So that's coming right out. It was growing across all the other pads. So I can already see that this side of the tree is getting lighter. This side is still quite heavy looking. You can see that there's a possibility of light getting to these pads and kind of increasing the pad ramification. So this part will eventually fill in and I'll get all those nice, kind of pads forming. Boy, a lot of difficult decisions on these branches. Like here's one that sweeps up. It's got a branch here, one here, one here, one here. What height do I want it? It's kind of towards the front, so I don't want it, as high as the main point of the canopy. So I may have to do some hard pruning up top and get rid of that whole top section. Yeah, ideally I'd want that branch kind of coming out at this level. It's getting a little tall. Maybe it won't be such a big cut. I'll try reducing the branches first. Kind of to here. Now taking the tip off that branch. Taking this one back to here. And then this one back to here and to, oh dear, I'm gonna have to take it right off here, like that. And then there's a back part to that branch which I don't need, so I can take that whole, this whole back section off here. So here I go. That'll open up some branches in the inner part of the canopy, get more light to them. So that pruned up quite nicely. It's nice and short now. Yeah, that was good. I didn't have to do a major cut on it. Way back to here. Now let's see if I can get some pads going on this side. So I've got a good thick branch coming up here. It divides. The dead part I can take out. Take off this upper growth here, keeping this one more horizontal and lower. I may have to prune this one back too. This branch starts low, but it goes quite high. I would rather it kind of be horizontal here. So I'm going to take it back quite hard to here, and to here, and take that upper growth off. So quite a hard pruning on this branch, really shortening it. Now this branch won't grow unless it gets light, so I've got to prune off the ones above it shorter, so that branch is getting light. So some hard pruning on this one also. Shortening those. That's looking good. Yeah. So I'm getting that layers in here. So these low branches, the mediums, and the higher ones. You've got to remember, if you look at the tree from the top view, everything's got to fan outwards. You can't have, branches crossing over top of other ones. Otherwise they just block out light and you start getting problems in the future of branches growing in the shade of another branch. Especially on these broom styles, you've got to keep all these pads. The top apex has to be shortened so it's not growing long and overhanging your lower branches. It's all got to be structured. So I'm definitely getting light. Remember I hard pruned this branch here? I definitely am getting light to it now, which is really good. That means it'll develop, new buds and it'll grow strong. It won't be a weak branch shaded out. Well, we're starting to get a little bit of pad definition here and there, and that'll increase. All these branches, because they get light now, they'll start developing more buds. It'll start filling in these pads, and it'll be exciting refining all the pad structure in the future. As you're pruning these branches, it's also important that you inspect them. Make sure there's no insects on them, scale or anything. If you see any scale, you know you need to spray your tree with soap and water. Clean it up. Okay, back to the front. Wow, it's really changing this tree. Starting to look more mature, I think. The structure anyway. Taking that out. I don't really want the ones growing in towards the center of the tree, so I'll take that out. And then I've got it dividing here, so I can take the top off there. And on a ficus, anything growing vertically tends to have more vigor than branches that are coming out on an angle. So all your vigor is going to be at the top of the tree. So you can't be afraid to prune the top of your ficus harder than your surrounding perimeter, because that's where all the vigor goes and wants to shoot up straight and become a giant full-size tree. So this is where you really need the turntable to kind of rotate it to see the branch structure, because it's very confusing from one view. You can't really see what's in front, what's behind. It just becomes a mass of branches. So rotating it kind of helps you perceive a 3D tree, and you get a better idea for pruning. So thinning a tree like this also helps get more air circulation into the branches. It gets more light to all the branches so you can develop it into the future, so you don't get dieback on the interior of the tree. So it's really good for the tree. It's just hard to do because you're losing all that nice foliage in the canopy. I think I'm getting really close to being finished, the pruning on this tree. I'm going to step back and have a look at it. I'm stepping back now, having a look at the tree. And my initial reaction is, wow, it's really changed. It's even though it's sparser, it has a more mature look to it. The branch structure and everything, the way the kind of branches are layered a bit. One thing I've noticed is I'm starting to like the back view maybe even more than the front view. And the back view was the front view at one time, and then the roots kind of developed nicer at the front. So I changed that to the front view. And now I'm thinking of maybe going back to the other side. I'll show you the back view. There's a look at the tree from the back. And the reason I like it is that there's kind of a thicker trunk, clump of trunks coming up the front there. So in this view, these trunks are a little more even looking. They're kind of flat onto you, those two major trunks. And there's a third one off to the right-hand side that's quite thick. And it looks a bit of a flatter tree from the front. It's not a bad view either. I mean, that's ideal, is to have a tree look beautiful from every view. So maybe this tree's getting that, which is all right by me. Let's have a look at it from some other angles, so kind of looking down. So you can see how the branches are fanning outwards. Kind of see it more in 3 dimensions now. Yeah, so it's looking quite good. It's a structure I can continue to build on. More ramification, more branching, select my nice flowing branches. The number one question that I get asked about this tree, people ask, is it a fusion tree? Was it a bunch of small ficus, wrapped together so they eventually fused and became a single tree? No, it's not a fusion ficus. This started out as a tree in about a 4-inch pot. It was purchased from Canadian Tire just in their gardening section, their indoor houseplant section. I did some pruning on it, developed these multi-trunk branches coming up. I developed all these roots and they just formed. There's a trunk, the original trunk is hidden underneath these roots. And you can see roots just start to grow off here, off the branches and the roots. And they kind of grow down, hug the roots, and eventually they thicken up. You can see some here. They eventually thicken up and kind of create this flowing root structure down the trunk. So this is all one tree. It's just old and it's starting to get that ficus kind of root base, which is really cool. I'm hoping, these upper trunks continue to thicken up, and like I said, eventually they'll kind of start fusing together, and I think that'll be really cool. I think it'll be a very natural, and for a bonsai ficus, fairly unique structure in the lower branches. If I tilt the camera down, you'll see all the foliage that I removed today. It's quite a bit. It's been an interesting journey kind of developing this tree from a small box store house plant into something that's starting to look more like a mature ficus. And it's been really fascinating for me, and I've learned a lot, and it's just been fantastic watching it grow and mature. And it's kind of like watching a tree out in your backyard. If you've ever planted a tree in your backyard, a small tree, and then, through the years, you see it develop and develop into this big mature tree. And that's kind of what it's like seeing this ficus develop. It's been quite an exciting Ficus Friday for me, starting the initial layout of the pads and branch structure in the upper canopy of this tree, someday developing them so it looks like a mature ficus. And that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.